Alright, so let's just turn this volume thing off just here. Hopefully you can hear me now. We've got 5 minutes to go. I thought a bit of a graphic, and I am actually better at doing cutouts than that. I'm just trying to be arty in case anyone's going to say anything funny. Glenn Parker, follically challenged. Welcome to the club, mate. Brian Dukes is in the house. He also is follically challenged. He'll tell you it's a style choice, but don't believe a word of it. So just a quick one, guys. This is just a few minutes or so just to make sure that everything's working tickety-boo. Hopefully it is. I can plan as much as I can possibly plan, but technology, as those of you know from last week, can cheers for that, Nick. Technology can kind of throw a curveball occasionally from time to time. Last week you couldn't see the cursor. I didn't have a zoom, and it appears that I had some kind of graphics card problem, so I've done an update before it actually before we went live. Troy, excellent, nice to see you, mate. Thanks for coming along. If you're wondering what I'm shouting at, it's just the chat room. So yeah, we've got that sorted. The cursor, I'm really hoping you see that tonight. But also, just to throw a bit more of a spanner in the works, last night when I was getting everything ready for you folks, everything's all set in the actual streaming software. I popped down to go and have my dinner. My wife actually texted me. How sad is that? I was sat up here with my headphones on, so my wife has to text me to say that she's got some dinner ready. So I'll go downstairs, have dinner, come back up, and the blue screen of death is on my computer screen. It said it couldn't restart, and I didn't even try to restart it. So obviously panic set in, got hold of Dell, and fair play to them. Dell were absolutely brilliant. They really were. A guy called Sashan from Dell, I was on the phone with him till maybe midnight last night as he was remote accessing the computer, and he's done all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So my fingers are firmly crossed, but ever since I finished the call with Sashan last night, it all appears to be okay. However, if I suddenly disappear during this next half hour or so, it's not because I've got the ump. It's because the computer's played up. All right? Let's just get that clear. Kundan, good to see you, mate. Thank you very much. Nice and clear. That's good. Yeah, I put a lot of effort into this one. Hopefully it'll work out. We're going to go through the retouch of that line. I'll explain all this obviously more when we start, but I'm going to go through the retouch of a line. It's not an actual picture that I took. It's a friend of mine who took the picture. And I kind of wanted to do a little bit for him because he's a really good mate, and I wanted to do a picture that he could then hang on the wall with that. So I'll take you through what I've done with that. There's something to do with textures. Those of you who got my creativity pack, I'm going to show you a little trick with those, really, just to show you how you can actually make use of low-res textures on high-res pictures. And yeah, a little bit of news, odds and sods. So I'm hoping really we should look around about half an hour. Last week went on for maybe 45, 46 minutes, something like that. I want to try and keep it down to roughly half an hour, because the fact that you folks are prepared to come and join me for a bit of time out of your life every week, I really appreciate it. So I don't want to take too much, take the mick out a bit too much and have you there too long. So hopefully half an hour is what we'll run to with what we're going to go through. But when it gets to 30 seconds on the countdown, hopefully you shall hear a little bit of music starting. That should get louder as we get nearer to the start, and then it'll all kick off, hopefully. So I am here, I'm in the chat room, so another minute or so to go before the music starts. But thanks so much for everybody who's come along so far. I've got some first timers for the night here. Good friends of mine, Sander and Geert, they've joined us from the Netherlands. There's loads of people in there. Mike, I can see you in there as well. Brilliant. Brian is doing the he's the management. Him and Fran are doing the moderating so that we keep it clean within the chat room, because we did have one guilty person a few weeks back. So they're there now, and they've got cameras on you, so they know where you are, they know where you live. Photoshop Pro. Oh yeah, Fran says don't forget to give the stream a thumbs up. But also, in the meantime, we've got 20 seconds to go or so. Get on social media if you don't mind. Just give us a shout out. Just sort of say that we're going to be doing this, going through some stuff. I would absolutely love you forever, and I'll put you on the Christmas card list. Kind of. E-card. Eco cards. All right. But hopefully the music will start any second now, and then we're going to start cracking on. Hi folks, Glyn here, just to remind you that if you haven't already, make sure you click on the subscribe button on my YouTube channel and also click the bell icon and tick in the notifications checkbox so that you'll never miss any of the live broadcasts. That's just a great and free way of showing you like the channel. Also, over on my website at glyndewis.com, click on the newsletter menu item to join my email group and download your free ebook called How to Develop Your Style. Fill in your email address, first name and family name, and then click on the subscribe button. And finally, add me in and connect over on Instagram by finding me with the username @GlynDewis. Alright, so we are live. Hopefully you can see me alright. The green screen will disappear. Alright, I just wanted to show you what I've got behind me here. So just checking you can all hear me okay. Somebody just give us a bit of a thumbs up to say, let you know you can hear me. But where are we? I'm being super prepared this evening. Like I say, 30 minutes. Those of you who are just in the countdown, Dave Clayton's in the house. Those of you who were there during the 5-minute countdown, I kind of said that I want to try and keep this to 30 minutes because I really do appreciate you taking time out of your life. Time you will not get back. So we can just quickly go through some stuff. I'll just mention what I'm going to go through in a minute, but you can see this is the Virgo in me. This is Mr. Organised here. So hopefully I'm organised. Let's hope the computer kind of sorts itself out. So hopefully you're going to see the cursor. Hopefully I'll have a little bit of zooming action going on like I didn't last week. But we'll kind of see how we're going on. So let me just show you then now. I'm really happy about this. I'm super chuffed. Let's just see if I can get you down now. Watch this. Ready? Here we go. Check it out. I'm so happy about this. This is how sad we are. My wife came in the room last night when I was playing with this, and I had some spare green material. And just like the 12-year-old kid that's within me, I put the green on my head, and I was just sort of sat in the room with no head on. That's the kind of person I am. All right, so let's crack on. Let's just get on with this. Let's show you what I want to go through. So you can see on the screen now. Then we've got this picture of this lion. Now this is a picture that was taken by a very good friend of mine called James, a really super bloke, and he just happened to be browsing through some pictures that he'd taken when he'd been on a safari recently, and he knows being on a safari is, you know, high up on my bucket list of things that I actually want to do. But we're going through these pictures. I saw this one. I thought, oh, wow, this would be really cool. But what you can see on screen is what I've quickly kind of done to do something for James, because I think the skills that we gain as photographers, retouchers, graphic artists, whatever you want to call yourself, I think sometimes it's just nice to give a little bit back. So I said to James, give me the file. I want to do something for you so you can get it printed nice and big in your house. So this was kind of like the finished result. I probably will spend a bit more time on it. But I want to show you then. Let's just dive over to here. Actually, can you see my cursor? Tell me in the chat if you can see my cursor. It's just right at the moment. It's right over his backside. Just so look in that kind of area just there. Right, so let's have a quick look here. So let's go to the before picture. This is the picture that James gave me. So I want to just take you through a few things. Some you're going to know, some you maybe won't know. But that's the great thing about this. Sometimes you can watch something, and if you just learn one small little tip, in my opinion, that's how I've always been. If you can learn one little tip, then it was worth it. All right? That's kind of a bit of a subliminal message there that you go away from this thinking, that was really worth half an hour out of my life. But I'll take you through the process now. This is how I would do it. I'm not going to be thinking too much about working non-destructively, so you're going to see me kind of jumping up and creating merged layers. I might do a bit of flattening and all that kind of stuff. It's just the individual kind of techniques that I want to show you to show how my thought process was that I went through this picture. So let's have a look. Well, first of all, let's just dive in. It looks really weird to see me kind of like on the screen just there. Let's just click on the padlock icon in the background layer there. And I'm going to need that for later on when we revert back to show you what I've actually done from the very start. But let me just start off then by creating a copy of the actual image like so. So now we've got our original kind of our copy. So what I'm going to do now then, I'm going to try and keep these labels, these layers labelled. I'll call this one Camera Raw. So what I'm going to do now then, first of all, is I'm going to go to the filter menu and I'm going to choose Camera Raw from the filter menu. And this was an update that came into Photoshop quite a while back now and never really got the kind of reception that I think Adobe were expecting for it. But I think having Camera Raw as a filter is it's one of the best things in Photoshop. It really is. Being able to dive back in rather than only be able to use Camera Raw when you first open up a raw image. I think now that we can dive back in, there's so much we can do. It gives us a lot more creative possibilities. So right then, here I want to do now, first of all, I just want to bring out some detail in this thing. So I'm going to go and grab, let's just take the shadow slider, something like that, and just bring that up just a little bit. And we can see now, although I think this is actually a JPEG image that James has given me, we're still able to do quite a bit. And at the end, if it kind of breaks it down just a little bit, what we're going to do with it, we can make it black and white and a few other little things to kind of rescue it and pull it back. But we'll take the shadows up just a little bit. Don't want to go too far with that. I don't want to play too much with the exposure. I think the exposure sometimes is a little bit too strong. I do like to use the shadow slider there. So I'll take those up quite a way. And I might just bring the highlights down just a touch, something like that. This is just to give me a starting point. So let's just come out of here now so we've got that. So straight away we can see we've got quite a bit of detail brought in there. Now, one thing that I want to do with this is I'm going to kind of bring in a bit of a Nick Brand influence into this. Those of you who don't know Nick Brand, he's an incredible wildlife photographer. I'll show you a picture of one of his books. I'll show you one of his books in a minute. But I've kind of used the influence of Nick Brandt in how I do this particular picture. So what I want to do, rather than having it in like a portrait, quite a tight crop on the line, I want to get a little bit of space to the side of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my crop tool, and let's just zoom out just a touch. And ideally what I'd like to do, if I hold down the Alt or Option key, it'll bring out both sides at the same time evenly like so. Ideally what I'd like to do is have it pretty much a square crop, so something like that, let's say. And you might think, if you've watched a video that I did a short while back about how you can use layer masks to use content aware so that it doesn't drag in anywhere else in the picture, what you might think of doing here is, well, we'll just kind of fill this area in. We could actually use something like edit and content aware scale. So maybe we could do that. But you're going to see that's going to stretch it out. That's not going to look very good. You might think of doing, say, maybe content aware just to fill in that area just there, so we can just quickly do content aware from the contents menu, click OK. But what you'll notice is it's going to bring in all kinds of stuff. Oh, I can hear the fans whirring away just there. It kind of does an okay job, but the problem with it is because it's a very, very shallow depth of field on this picture, there's areas that are in focus, areas that are out of focus. So it's going to grab them all in and from all over the place. And although I've got that technique where we can use a layer mask, I'll put a link in the description for this. You can use a layer mask to kind of cover over areas that you don't want content aware to pull from to cover areas. There's just so much areas in this that I wouldn't want it to pull from, so we don't actually end up with much we can use. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's just get rid of that and we'll just backtrack just a touch. Now I'm not actually going to take it all the way to the square crop just yet. What I am going to do is just bring out just a little bit like so. I'm going to do it in tiny, tiny bits. I think one of the things to remember about Photoshop, and same as in photography and stuff like that, is to just slow down and take your time. Do it step by step. Best advice I was ever given was to slow down. But I'm going to just fill in this area here. So I've only got a small area. And what we'll do is I'll just do my rectangular marquee tool, and we will just try and use content aware just to see what it can do for us just there. So in a small area. Now see there, it does a good job. It didn't pull in any kind of in focus and out of focus areas and make it look all kind of weird. It's because I've used a small area, it's just grabbed a small amount in, so it's kind of working like that. So now what I'll do is I'll get my crop tool again and I'll just bring out a little bit more like so. And again, I'll just repeat that process like this. So let me just do one more that side like so. And so that does that. And I'm going to do a little bit over this side as well. So again, we'll just get the marquee tool, rectangular marquee tool. I'm using the Shift and Delete key to bring up the content aware here, nice and quick. Click OK, and it's going to fill it in like so. Bang, there we go. Right. Now, that's all starting to look good, and I would just keep repeating that process until I've got it nice and pretty much square cropped. However, if it's coming through nice and clean on your screen, you might notice this, and this is something we have to really be careful of and avoid. So if I just zoom in, you can see now, although it looks like it's filled it in really nicely, you are going to start to see repeating patterns, and that's going to be the big giveaway that you've actually extended it. So all I would do at this particular point is I would just come in, I'd get something like my clone stamp tool, something like that, making sure that it's nice and soft, so when we use it, it blends it in with the areas around it. And all I will do is I'll just randomly come in and start to cover over areas that I see that it gives it repeating patterns. So here, hopefully you can see my cursor. Here we've got this repeating pattern down here. So all I would do is I'd sample a little bit above it and just cover over it there, just to kind of break up that repetitiveness. So your eyes aren't really drawn to it straight away. Just by breaking up that repeating pattern, it's not going to make it quite so obvious. But don't sweat it too much. You know, you're noticing it because you're doing it, but don't worry about it too much. I'm just going to quickly kind of just cover over a few areas, just like this. We can just go really, whoops, not too good there. Just go really quickly on this, like so. Get rid of a few of these plants. Now, these little plants down here, you don't need to get rid of them all completely, but you can just get rid of a little bit on one and a little bit less on the other, just to kind of, like I said, get rid of that repetitiveness so that it doesn't quite look, you know, so your eyes aren't drawn to it really quickly. You want to kind of just try and break it up just a touch like that. Well, these are really repeating here, aren't they? So let's have a do that. Break it up just a touch. I might even just kind of come from over here and we'll take a little bit in. I might even take it down to maybe 50%. You don't have to do the clone stamp tool at 100% every time. Just maybe take it down to 50 just to vary it just a little bit as well. Something like that. And let's just do one little bit more up there. In fact, I do that quite a bit. I will sometimes just use the clone stamp tool at a lower opacity just so that it kind of covers it over. So there you go. That's just nice and quick just there. Kind of see we've extended it a little bit and we've kind of got rid of the repeating patterns. Obviously I'm racing through, but this is just to give you a look into the kind of thought process that I'm going to go for. So now that we've done that, right, let's have a quick look. I will go to the chat room, by the way, at some point, but I want to get to a certain point before we take a quick break. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is get rid of this poop, this down here, because I don't want James to have this above his mantelpiece, printed on metal, nice big print. Because if it was my house and I saw this picture, I'd be drawn straight to the poop. My hand's disappeared. I'd be drawn straight to the poop. So I want to get rid of that. So let me just show you how I'm going to do that. Now, you would think I'm going to add a blank layer and I'm going to rename this layer to poop. There we go. Now, you would think you can use like your clone stamp tool, something like that. But the trouble with that is, because obviously the poop, oh sorry if I keep saying that word, it's kind of like he's got his feet and a little bit of it, his feet, a little bit of it. When you're using a clone stamp tool, you have to be really careful not to keep getting it over his feet. So one way that I would do it was I'd just come in with my quick selection tool and I would just drag a selection over his feet like this. So like this, like that, on this one as well. We don't want it on that area there, so I'm going to hold down my Alt key on PC, Option key on Mac, just to get rid of it on that area there. And we're going to get this foot in as well, and we'll take it off that little bit just there and add it onto that. So now that we've got this marching ant selection going around the lion's feet, what that basically means is, if I now go to the layer, the blank layer, and by the way, when we're using this clone stamp tool, we need to make sure at the very top here, the sample part says current and below or all layers, all right, because we're going to use it to clone something. At the moment, we've got a blank layer. If we try to use our clone stamp tool in that blank layer, Photoshop's going to go, well, there's nothing there. So you need to kind of lead Photoshop by the hand to say, look through this layer where there are pixels and use those on this blank layer, if that makes sense. So now that I've got the marching ants going around his feet, what this means is when I use the clone stamp tool, it's only going to allow what I clone to go within that area. Let me show you what I mean. So let's say I want to cover over this little bit just here. If I now sample from this particular part and I try to cover over the poop there, you'll see it won't go. However, it will go within his feet. So we obviously don't want that. So now that we've got the actual selection there around his feet, we want to invert it because we don't want to cover over his feet. We want to cover over the mess. All right, so all I'm going to do is go to select and inverse, and now you can just about see probably on your screens the marching ants have now flipped, so it's actually selecting everything but the lion's feet. So now then I'm going to come back to my clone stamp tool, hold down the Alt key or the Option key, and I'm just going to come in, sample from there, and then just start to get rid of the poop just inside there. And you'll see what's going to do. That's going to be really helpful for me now because it's actually going to allow me to come in, get rid of it without spilling over onto the lion's feet. Now, if you find that actually distracting, having those marching ants going around, you could press Control or Command H to hide the marching ant selection. I don't actually do that because I keep forgetting afterwards that I did it. And I forget there's a selection. Then Photoshop starts to behave weird, or at least I think it does. But then it's down to me because I didn't get rid of the marching ants. They are there, but I've hidden them. So I don't tend to do it. But if you want to, Control or Command H will do that for you. So let me just get rid of this very, very quickly in here. Let's just get rid of this poop just here. I'm going to go through it really quickly just to give you an overview of what I would do. Something like that. And let's just get rid of this just here as well. Like that. In fact, on this little bit here, let's just get rid of that now. Command or Control D, we'll get rid of that. And I think I might just see, will Content Aware do that as well? Let's see if it does. No, rubbish. I won't do that. We're just going to use the Clone Stamp tool. So let's just go there. Just select above it and come in just to get rid of that. Random bits just to cover it over. Something like that will do. All right. Something like that. All right. So we've got rid of the poop. We got to there. All right. How are we getting on with the there? Where's the right poop? Yeah, I'm going to have to think of another word. I'll just say mess from now on. So now that we've done that, again, it's just to give you an idea of the thought process here. You can see how we're moving on. We've extended it. We've kind of got rid of some of the repeating patterns. There's one that's driving me insane just there, actually. Let's just get rid of this one here. Clone Stamp tool, 50% on the Clone Stamp tool. And I'm just going to go... whoops, let's get rid of the Windows thing. Let's just hold that there and we'll just come and get rid of that just on there. That'll do. Okay, right, cool. Double click the hand tool, take it back to full view. Now, the next thing I think I'll do, looking at my little list here, because like I said, I was well organized, my little workflow, I'm going to do a black and white conversion. There are so many ways that you can do black and white conversions, but one way that I love to do it is using this little thing over here, the gradient map. So I'm going to press D on my keyboard to set the foreground and background colors to their default of black and white. And you can see over here in the left-hand side, black and white in the foreground. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over in the adjustments in the top right-hand corner on the gradient map. Now, straight out the bag, it doesn't do a bad job at all. It's actually really, really nice. But once you've got it, you don't have to stay at this particular point, because if you then click on the little gradient that comes up in the properties, here you can see the gradient editor. And at the bottom, you can see where we have the black on the far left and white on the right. And as it goes across, you then start to bring in all the sort of grey, and then it changes over to completely white. And that is what's mapped onto your picture to give it a pretty decent black and white. But I want to control it just a little bit more. Obviously, we can click on the black and the white points. But one reason I do that is initially, watch what happens in the middle of this bar when I click on either this little black marker here or the white marker here. When I click on it, a little marker comes up in the middle just here, tiny little diamond. And that allows me now to control how the blacks and the whites and the greys all kind of blend into each other. And I can really control the look of my picture. So if I move it across, you can start to see how we can change the point where the black and the white start to blend in. And I love to do that to really control and give much more control over my black and whites. I would say 99% of the times I do a black and white, it's using this. I used to use Silver Effects Pro. Don't use it at all now. I've actually uninstalled it. So I tend to use this one. So let's just go there, just a touch, something like that. And we'll click OK. All right, so we've used Camera Raw, we've brightened them up just a little bit, got some detail out, we've extended it, we've used Content Aware, we've got rid of the stuff in between his feet quite quickly, but you can kind of see the process there. And now we've done a black and white. Let's have a quick break just to show you something else. This is a question that I got, but I want to show you just something else. In fact, I need to just click up here, and there we go. Time for a quickie. I've worked so hard on all these little adverts for you just to try and make it a little bit more interesting. Now, just taking a break from the line pitch, I want to just show you this here. So you'll probably recognise this. This is one of the pictures that I've got from my World War II Home Guard project that I'm working on. But I want to just very quickly show you a quick tip about using textures. Now, those of you who've been out and purchased my creativity pack, thank you so much. I've had some brilliant feedback on that, and actually people have been sending pictures over as well, showing me what they're doing with it. Some great results, but a couple of people have asked if they can have higher res versions of the actual textures. Truth is, some of them are high res, some of them aren't. It's just the way that I captured them. And what I didn't want to do was just send any old textures out. I didn't want to go out on a morning, photograph 30 textures and just send them out. That to me would have been wrong. I want to send you the textures that I use. And some of them I've taken with my iPhone. So there's some of them aren't high res, some of them are quite low res. So I want to just show you a little trick so it kind of doesn't really matter what resolution they are to a point. So, right, let me just show you this. Now, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go and File and Open. And we'll go to, let's go to my desktop. And over here, I've got the textures that I've actually provided in the texture pack. And I'll just choose, let's say, GD19 and click Open. So that's going to hopefully open that texture up in a second. There we go. So there's the texture. Now, if you then take this picture, this actual file here, this texture, and drag it over onto the picture that you want to... what's going on here? Oh, we've got some malfunction going on. Something's trying to catch up. Technology, don't you love it? Oh, there we go. Right, let's just bring that back up again. All right. Phew! Thought we'd lost it then. Okay, so what's it doing now? There we go. Right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this texture over onto the picture of the soldier. And you can see as I drag it in, it's considerably smaller than the soldier. So you'd think then now, if you're going to resize it, it's going to really start to deform. You don't really want that to happen. So how can we get the same texture to be really good for this particular picture? Well, here's the little tip. I never open a file and drag it on top of the picture that I want to put it into. I always use the place command. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go File, Place, which is just here, Place or Place Embedded, all depends what version of Photoshop you're actually using. So we go Place Embedded. I'll go back to the same file, GD19, and click Place. And when I do that, look what happens. He says, there we go. So it's a lot bigger now. All right. The texture, if I zoom in, you can see it's maintained all the kind of thing. There's no stretching. There's no kind of deformity kind of happening there at all. It's not looking smudgy. It's absolutely bang on. So all I'd need to do now is just resize it just a touch to cover over that little bit there. I've not had to stretch it loads and loads and loads, so it starts to lose quality. Now, the reason I show you this is because there's something really special about the Place command. What it does, it looks at the original file and it kind of takes a snapshot in its head and says, right, I know what that looks like. So then when you use the Place command to put it into a picture which is much bigger, it's going to bring it in to pretty much the same size as the picture that you want to add it to, but it's going to say, I remember what this looked like. I'll put it in nice and big, but I'll try to keep it as best I can to look the same as what it did, even though it's small. Does that make sense? So I'm going to say, if ever you're using a small or low res file that you want to add into a picture, use the Place command, because there's some kind of weird magic going on, like interpolation, so that actually does hopefully maintain the original look of that file when it brings it in much, much bigger. It's a great way to do it. Another way, if you're like me, that you store your files within the libraries, all you'd need to do there, here's my textures here. We've got GD19. All you need to do is just drag it over into your picture, and you see there, again, nice and big, because when we do that, we get this little cloud icon here. It's still saying that it's kind of like a smart object. So that was just a quickie just to show you how you can actually make use of low-res files when you add them into high-res files. So let's just dive back over. Quick break for a bit of time for a quickie. All right, so you're back in the room. Let's carry on with the picture of the lion. So what I'm going to be doing next then. Okay, right. Now that we've got to this stage, let's just create a merged or stamp layer to the top of the layer stack. So I'm going to go Shift, Control, Alt and E. Or if you're on a Mac, you're looking at Shift, Command, Option and E. So we've now got this merged layer at the top of the layer stack. And those of you who don't know, this layer at the top is a combination of all the layers below it. So you can see now, if I turn off every other layer, the picture doesn't change. That's because this here is made up from all of these below it. All right, so now then, this is the great thing what I mentioned earlier on about Camera Raw. We're now going to dive back into Camera Raw. Let's go Filter and Camera Raw Filter. All right, so what I'm going to do here is try to maybe kind of control the light a little bit more so that we can really focus on where we want people to be looking. So I think the first thing I'll do here is I'm going to get an adjustment brush. And let's just reset the sliders. So I'll go to the little flyout menu at the top right there, reset local correction settings. All the sliders then snap back to 0. And I'll just bring the exposure up just a little bit. And I'm just going to paint over the lion's head. Let's make sure I put the mask on so I can see where I'm painting. So we're going to go for kind of this kind of area here. I don't want to spill over too much, so let's just click on erase. Just take it off that little bit. All right, let's get rid of the mask. And now I'm just going to bring up that just a touch there. So not too much, otherwise it'll look a bit fake. But just enhance that kind of brightness on the lion's face just there. Yep, quite happy with that. That's looking good. Now I'm going to grab my radial filter. And again, just reset the sliders. And I'm going to bring the exposure down just a little bit now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to model the light, shape the light so that you're really drawn into looking at the line. So the first one I'll do is I'll draw an ellipse like that kind of size there, bring my cursor outside of it, and it becomes this kind of arced double-edged arrow. So now I can twist it around to angle it just a little bit more like that. So let's just take it to there. Might just bring it in just a touch. Something like that. And I'm going to make sure that at the bottom here it's set to outside, so we can start to kind of model the light just down like so. Something like that. Then I'm going to click New, and I'm going to add another gradient. Sorry, another radial gradient just there. Bring that around. So this one's a little bit smaller. And I'm just going to bring it up to about there. It's just on the actual lion's body. And a little bit on his head, maybe just a touch as well. But this time we'll click inside and we'll bring that up just a touch. So that's something like that. And let's go for one more new. This time we'll bring the exposure down. So all I'm doing here is just playing around, trying to shape the light so that you're not kind of confused as to where to look. I want you to look straight at the actual lion and give it a little bit of an environment that he's actually in here. So let's just drag that down. Now you can see what the thing about this is now. Look, can you see I've got like a vignette going around the whole picture. I want it to darken around the outsides, but because it's a really soft vignette, keep an eye on the lion's face here, because as I bring it down, can you see how that vignette is starting to creep into where the line is as well? So if I go to around about there, I don't want it to darken down the face, but it is doing it at the moment. So all I can do to get rid of that, keep the vignette, but just get rid of a small part of it. If I now click on brush and have the little minus tab there, I can then come in and just get rid of the effect of that vignette that I only want really to be around the outside. So that's a real great addition that came in to using camera raw and just there, so that you can actually come in and paint away effects like that. So I really do like that. All right, so that's that one. Okay. Last thing I think I'll do here, I'll just bring down the highlights just a touch as well on the overall picture. So it's something like that. All right, so click OK. Right, let me just show you this for a second, because I want to show you why I'm going to, why I'm actually doing it this particular way. So this is the book here, one of the books by Nick Brandt, and this one is called A Shadow Falls. I'm going to zoom back just a little bit. This is an amazing book. He's got 3 books. It's quite a big book, as you can see, but some of the pictures, if I just show you some of the stuff that's in it, I mean this stuff is just, I hope you can see that, it's just absolutely stunning stuff. But there's a picture here of this lion. I mean, look at this. Hopefully you can see that. Can you see that there? Absolutely. It's just beautiful, beautiful work. Now, I'll put a link to Nick Brandt's, link to his stuff in the description part. Definitely check it out. But one thing that you're going to notice about Nick Brandt's work is that there appears to be sometimes, it's almost like he's been photographed with a tilt shift. I don't know if it has or not, but there's definitely this kind of blurring effect on it. And it adds a real, not fantasy, but a real kind of surrealistic kind of look to the pictures. But it doesn't take away the fact that they're real pictures of real animals in their real environment. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful effect that he gives on it. So I'm going to try and copy that. There's a good book about copying called Photograph Like a Thief. I'm going to copy that now just to see if I can kind of recreate that kind of effect. So what I'm going to do is this. Let's just rename this layer here. I'll call this one light, because that's where we worked on the light on the lion. And I'm going to create a copy. So Control J. And we'll call this one Tilt Shift. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the filter menu, choose Blur Gallery, and we'll choose Tilt Shift. All right, so when we use the tilt shift, let's go into here. So now we've got this little, you can see you click down, we've got this little tilt shift. If you haven't used this, it's great fun to come and play with it. So what I'm going to do now is this. We're going to go, let's just rotate it around. I want to put a bit of a blur, first of all, top and bottom of the picture, but at an angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my cursor outside these two middle bars, and like with the radial gradient, when you bring the cursor outside, you get that angled double-headed arrow. So you can then rotate the actual tilt shift. So I'm going to put the middle portion where there shouldn't be any blur. I'm going to put that right over the lion's head and coming across his body and over onto his backside, somewhere like that. Now you can then come in where you've got this little disc. This here can control how much blur is going on. So hopefully at the bottom here you can see where it's happening on his feet. At the top and at the bottom as well, we're getting quite a nice little bit of blur. Something like that. You can also click on these little bars here. You can bring them in, you can bring them out. You can control how the feathering of how that blur fades off. I tend to pretty much leave that at its default. It's just the angle that I generally change. But we've got a nice bit of blur going on there. But let's just bring that up to touch like so. So that one will do. Actually, at the top here it says high quality. Definitely get your money's worth and click on high quality. So that's the first one I'm going to do, and we'll click OK. So that's applied it just on that bottom part just there. So we're going to go filter, blur gallery, and I'm going to go back in now to try and recreate this Nick Brandt kind of feel. So again, we'll go back to the tilt shift, but this time with the tilt shift, I'm going to angle it so that we're getting it coming across. Let's just bring that onto his face, just around about there. Let's have a look. Bum, bum, bum. Try and get that to angle off just a touch. Something like that. Let's just bring that in just a little bit as well. And we can control how much blur we're getting, not too much. Something like that. Okay, let's just change the angle of that just a touch more. That's what we want. Yeah, cool. All right. So go to there. All right, and we'll click OK. So it's a kind of weird effect. Definitely dive onto the internet, look at Nick Brandt stuff, and you'll see what I mean about this blurring that he does. So if I turn that before, after, before, after. This is the thing I said about not worrying too much when you're doing this kind of work, I guess. Don't worry too much about having the environment and the background and everything looking perfect, because there are effects that you can apply to it later on that you can kind of cover over any mistakes that you've made. And this one here, adding a blur, is obviously a great way of hiding any kind of mistakes that you do. So that's that one there. I'm kind of liking that. And the next thing I'm going to do is we'll create another copy. So Control or Command J. And this time, it's like a little bit of there's kind of like a glow that Nick Brandt has to his pictures. And the way that I'm going to do that is we're going to go to Filter, we're going to go Blur again, and Gaussian Blur. And I do this a lot when I'm trying to add like a bit of a glow to a picture. I'm going to take the blur up to a radius of about 10 pixels and click OK. So now that the whole picture has been blurred out. And then all I'll do is I'll just get my opacity and I'll take it down to around about 20%. So let me just zoom in and show you what that's like before and after. So before, after, before, after. I don't know if that's coming through as clear as it is on my screen here, but it really does add a very subtle glow to you. So I'd highly recommend you try that, certainly on beauty portraits as well. Create a copy of the layer, blur it to around about 10, and then just lower the opacity to around about 20, 15, 20, something like that. And you'll see that it does add a nice kind of glow to it, but because the opacity is really low, it doesn't really knock out too much of the actual sharpness in the picture as well. So I do like that one. All right, so that's that one there, looking good. And I think that maybe the last thing we'll do, let's just dive back in again. This is what I'm saying about using Camera Raw. I love using Camera Raw. Filter, and we'll dive into Camera Raw. A couple of things I'm going to do in there is we'll go to the split toning. I want to give a bit of a brownish kind of look to the picture here. So we'll go to, let's have a look, take the hue on the highlights, 23, 24. Let's bring up the saturation so we can actually see that. So it's very slight yellowy orange kind of feel to the highlights just there. And again, now we'll come down to the shadows and let's add a bit of a shadows, bit of warmth into the shadows as well. So we'll go 40-ish and I'll bring the saturation up to around about 5 or 6, something like that, and then click OK. So we can have a nice, very subtle bit of warming to it as well. Again, the Nick Brandt kind of feel to it, something like that. And then what I would generally do, my workflow is normally that I would start off in Lightroom, send the picture over into Photoshop, do some stuff, save it. It then goes back into Lightroom, and then I would add some noise to it. But I'm going to actually do the noise now just on a blank layer. So let's just add a blank layer, rename this layer to noise, and we'll go edit and fill. And we just need to fill it with 50% grey so we can actually have some pixels in there to actually make noisy. And I'll change the blend mode for now. Let's change the blend mode to hard light. Zoom in, something like that, and we'll go filter, noise, and add noise. And you can see there, if I turn that before, after, that's using the hard light blend mode. So I'll just click OK on that. Really liking the look that's given us just there. But if you don't want it to be quite such a strong effect, play around with the blend modes in here. That's hard light. Overlay is not quite as hard. And then soft light will make it even less obvious. A lot more subtle way of adding in those kind of bits of grain and noise to give that age look to the picture. So I might just stick with overlay, something like that. All right, so I think that is pretty much it. Let's have a quick look again at the starting picture. So let's get rid of this one just here, get rid of that, and we'll get rid of that one there, and we'll go to, let's just create a copy. So image and duplicate, and then we'll go on this one here, file, and revert. It'll take it back to exactly how it was when we started. So there's the before and there's the after. It's just a very, very quick one just to show you the kind of process that I would have gone through when I am going through when I'm doing this picture for James. So I'll make sure that I actually do a slow time video of you on this one. So I hope that's kind of useful. Just gives you a bit of an insight. Maybe there's some things in there that you didn't know, or maybe you kind of knew about a while back but you've never actually tried. So that's that. Let me just dive over to where are we, 4, and I want to show you just go through a couple of things. I don't know why these keyboard shortcuts aren't working. There we go. Let's just dive over to there. All right, so new stuff that I've got for you. Let me just bring up my browser. Let's just bring up Chrome here, and we'll click on to Photo Hub. So just a couple of things to let you know about. First one is that next month in September, 6th of September, I'm over in Dublin, and I'm doing a presentation there, photography live demo, retouching, what have you, for Photo Hubs. The details are on the website there. That'll be on the link in the description part of the video. Also, another thing I mentioned a couple of them last week. Scott Kelby's worldwide photo walk is happening again this year, 10th anniversary on the 7th of October. And there's a few people I'd like to let you know about who are running walks. So I highly recommend, if you've done it, or you're going to do it again, or you've never done it, dive on and get one of the walks that these folks are doing here. So the first one is my friend Fran. Fran's in the chat room here. She's helping out with all the moderating. So she's running a photo walk in Manchester. Again, the links for this will be in the description part. There's Fran. If you're looking on the map, that's what she looks like. Another one is my mate Brian. He's doing a photo walk over in Oxford, Brian Worley. He says he's got 11 spaces left, so that's going to be filling up fairly soon. So check out Oxford there. And there's just a couple more that I want to let you know about as well. A very good friend of mine called Tony Meerman. Tony lives over in Durham, beautiful part of the country. I've known Tony for a few years now, met him all because of photography. He's now running his first ever photo walk. So if you're in Durham, if you're near Durham, if you can spell it, if you want to go there, highly recommend you go and hang out with Tony for the afternoon. Super guy. So check out his. Again, the link will be in the video, in the description part. And the last one, another good friend of mine here, Anthony Farrimond. He's got one running over in Leeds. So there's a huge choice. That's like 4 or 5 walks there out of hundreds, if not thousands, that are going to be going on during the day. So definitely check those folks out. And also, one last thing here. This is an event that's going on, again, it's in September. It's by the Raw Photography Society, Raw Photographic Society, and it's over in Birmingham, at the Holiday Inn in Birmingham, near Birmingham Airport. Now, I was going to be doing this function. I've been asked to come and do a presentation there, but on the date, I've had a booking come in, so I'm no longer going to be in the country for this particular event. However, I would recommend you go there because there's some great speakers, and one of them, those of you who ever use the Flash Centre here in the UK, Brian Collier, who's kind of like the assistant manager at the Birmingham store, super bloke, but a really great photographer as well. He's now doing presentations on the day. So if you've never seen Brian, because Brian's ordinarily, he's always helping everybody out. But I'm gutted I'm going to miss seeing Brian speak. I've never seen it, but I know that his work is brilliant. So I'd highly recommend that you get to go and see that as well. Now, I want to finish off. I will have a quick look in the chat room in a second, but I want to just finish off with this little thing here. I've got a few thank yous. I'll explain what this picture means in a moment. But first of all, I just wanted to say, well, first of all, thanks a lot for spending your time with me again. It's kind of rushed through. There's always a few little technical things with these, but thanks for hanging in there. But this picture here, it's kind of a bit of a relevance. This picture here is done by my friend Aaron Blaze. Those of you who know Aaron, incredible artist, worked at Disney for over 20 years, so he's an animator, director. He did this picture, and it's of my two cats. The black and white one is Morris. Morris is no longer with us, and the one behind, the full black, is Posey, the little girl. And Aaron just did this for us. It's a beautiful picture. I can actually got a video showing how he did it. It's like a video showing, like, sped up, showing doing the drawing. It's amazing to see it. But the reason I put this picture up is to say thank you to those of you who are part of my email group that have actually emailed me about Posey, the black cat, the girl at the back there, because she's not doing good. She's 18 now, which is a brilliant age, I know. Those of you who kind of like aren't really into animals wouldn't really get this, but those of you who do like animals and love animals, you kind of know that they really get into your heart and they kind of form being part of your family. And Posey's been with us for 18 years. And we've had some interesting times over the last 18 years, but the one constant thing that we've had in our life has been them two, and she's not good. She's those of you on my email group knew that she's not been well. We thought she was kind of coming through it, but over the last few days she's kind of gone downhill again. So we always want them to live forever, don't we? So fingers are so firmly crossed. She's going for a blood test tomorrow, so it's just to say thanks for all the well wishes that people have sent through. So I don't want to depress you too much. But hey, right, I'm going to go and have a quick look in the chat room. Let's have a quick look. Any questions? I will hang around in the chat room when this is all finished anyway. So I will dive around about 10-15 minutes or so to answer some questions. But unless there's anything burning in there, it's great to see that some of you are actually mentioning about going to the photo walks. Highly recommend you do that. I'll dive into that kind of thing, dive into the chat room afterwards. But let me just finish off again saying thank you very much. It's a very quick one tonight. How long have we done for time? 40 minutes. I said 30. Thanks for your time. Thanks for taking time out of your life, time that you can't get back, for spending with me this evening. I will be back again next week, next Thursday, which will be the 24th, 8 PM. But in the meantime, guys, in the comments that you're going to get, this video is going to be uploaded onto YouTube straight away afterwards anyway, but either leave a comment in the actual comment section there or leave a comment on the video when it's posted online afterwards. What kind of content would you like me to go through? And there's so much we could do, but in a short space of time, just let me know what you would like to see, because it's always handy to cover things that people like. But I think we'll leave it there. Let's just go on to here. So thanks very much. I'll see you next Thursday, 8 PM. Be there. Hi, I'm Glyn Dewis, and I want to let you know about my brand new book, Photograph Like a Thief. Now, I truly believe that your own unique style starts with copying, because you have to have a starting point. But when I say copying, I mean looking at the work of other great photographers, their lighting, composition, posing, how they retouch their images, learning from it and going on to create something completely new. Now, I've packed a lot into this book. There's a whole chapter dedicated to reverse engineering, equipment, my favourite retouching techniques, and 10 chapters taking you from coming up with an idea, the lighting, the setup, the photo shoot, and the complete retouching steps from start to finish. So check out Photograph Like a Thief, available now where all good books are sold.